Welcome back to the channel, all my fellow Transformer dorks. I am your humble host, Mr. Pessimistic Prime. And today we'll be taking a look at a figure I am in much anticipation for. A figure I've been wanting since the first stock images of this figure hit the internet. Today we'll be taking a look at Studio Series Transformers 1 Deluxe Class Starscream. But before we jump into the review, if you guys haven't already, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and share. Leave a comment down below letting me know what you guys thought of Studio Series TF1 Starscream. Man, oh man, I do have a lot of things I want to say when it comes to this figure. Now, this figure became one of my most hyped figures when it was first showed off about 2 months ago, and I'm just going to come out and say it. This figure did not live up to the hype.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
Yes, I have to unfortunately say that, but that doesn't mean that there's nothing to like about this figure, because that would be a huge lie. It's just that the negatives outweigh the positives. So let's go ahead and take him out of his box so we can get a better look at him. And here he is in all of his so-called glory. And as you can see, the mold of the figure looks pretty accurate to his movie appearance, and as you can see, the figure does have a backpack. Now, normally this is something I would have a huge issue with, but Starscream has always had a big backpack due to his design, so this is something that I can look past. But as far as being accurate to his movie appearance, I would say they mostly nailed the accuracy. Now, one thing to point out is his heels. As you can see, his thrusters serve as his heels in robot form, and they are very sturdy as they lock into place, so no worries about him tipping over backwards. Now, we're gonna move on to the biggest negatives that I have with this figure, and the most obvious negative is his color scheme. The blue and red are accurate, but I'm not sure why they decided to use a tan, almost yellowish tan as his primary color, when in the movie, it's a metallic gray. So I'm going to assume that this figure was based off maybe early concept art. My next obvious issue with this figure is the head sculpt. I want to know whose goofy ass thought it was a good idea to give Starscream the head of Tobey Maguire. Because this is criminal. Whoever decided to approve this needs to be brought in for questioning right away, right now. I mean, they couldn't have picked out a worse head sculpt to use. Plus, his head seems to be slimmer than it did in the movie. My next issues with the figure is the articulation. Now, don't get me wrong, the figure does have your typical articulation. His head can look up and down and spin a full 360 degrees. His arms can rotate back and forth as well as kick out to the side. His elbows can bend a little bit past 90 degrees as well as being able to turn his biceps. His legs can extend forward and backwards as well as to the side. And his knees can bend just about past 90 degrees. And to top it off, he does have rotation in his thighs. And that's just about it when it comes to the articulation of this figure. He does not have any wrist and hip articulation and no articulation on his feet, which was a huge letdown for me. Now, the articulation isn't horrible, but it definitely feels like this figure is missing something. And honestly, that's the best way to describe this figure. An okay figure that had a lot of potential, and honestly, that's been the common theme here when it comes to the Transformers 1 Studio Series line. Okay figures that could have honestly been something more. Now, for the accessories that he comes with his 2 null-ray cannons, a Cybertronian Uzi, and a back panel which is mainly for his vehicle alt mode, but as you can see here, you can attach it to the Uzi and you can make it into a more imposing weapon. Now let's go ahead and transform him into his Cybertronian jet mode. Alright, here he is in his alt mode, and it's fair to say that it's pretty close to his animated counterpart. The transformation process can be a little complicated at times, especially if you have a peanut brain like me, but it's still easy to follow step by step. My best piece of advice for transforming this figure is making sure everything clicks together, because if you don't hear a click, then most likely the figure will fall apart. Now, as for his jet form, like I mentioned earlier, it's fairly close to how he appeared in the movie. I honestly dig his jet form over his robot form. The only issue I have with his jet form is the backside here is a little cluttered and ugly, but overall quite satisfied with how his jet form came out. I also appreciate how his primary weapons are a crucial part of his alt mode. Now, as for my final thoughts, I'll say this. The Studio Series TF1 line is definitely more misses than hits, and I really think that is due to Hasbro deciding to scale down these figures. Sentinel Prime should have been a leader class, Optimus, Megatron, and Starscream should have all been Voyager classes. I understand that would mean higher budgets for the figures, which in return would price these figures at a higher price point. But at the end of the day, I know for a fact that we would still line up to buy these figures. Overall, the figure is okay at best. The figure gets the job done, but definitely lacks, just like his fellow counterparts. Pessimistic Prime somewhat recommends Starscream. But that's all I got for today's video, guys. What did you guys think of Studio Series Transformers 1 Starscream? Do you plan on scooping him up, or is this a hard pass for you? Let me know down below, and as always, to all my fellow Transformer dorks, till all are one.